Hello and welcome to Your Vote Counts, a public informational nonpartisan service program designed to get you acquainted with the candidates vying for the 2022 primary races of mayor, Salem City Council, Marion and Polk County Commissioners. These interviews come to you through the producers of Capital Community Media in collaboration and questions and moderators from the Association of University Women, the Salem City Club, the League of Women Voters of Marion and Polk Counties, and neighborhood associations. All candidates for these races were invited and all but two chose to participate. Candidates did not receive the 7 questions prepared by the League of Women Voters ahead of time. Candidates were invited to prepare a 2-minute opening address that covers their background and qualifications for office, and a 2-minute closing that identifies the goals that they have for the office if elected. I am Barbara Sellers-Young from the League of Women Voters of Marion and Polk Counties, and I would like to introduce you to Stacey, but I'm apologizing, Stacey, in advance, Vieyra-Braendle.
Vieyra-Braendle.
Okay, thank you, Stacey, who is running for City Council. And I'd like to look forward to hearing your opening statement.
Absolutely, thank you so much. So again, my name is Stacey Vieyra-Braendle, and I am running for the Salem City Council to represent Ward 6, which is Northeast Salem. I currently serve as an occupational therapist in a hospital here in the Portland metro area. Every day I'm working with people who are recovering from strokes, from surgeries, hip replacements, COVID, you name it. And I'm working with them, collaborating with them and their families to help them be as independent and as safe as possible when they leave the hospital. Prior to this, I worked as a music therapist for several years at the Oregon State Hospital. So I have some pretty extensive work in the mental health field. And I also wanted to tell you a little bit about where I come from. I grew up in Kansas. I grew up in a bicultural household. We were kind of this world of dualities. My parents had different faith backgrounds, different class backgrounds. And one of the things that they did both share, though, was a passion for serving others, a passion for uplifting our communities, no matter what the act is, big or small. So I do believe that my personal experiences, my lived experiences as a mixed Latina with invisible disabilities, my professional experiences working in mental health care and mainstream medical care have made me uniquely qualified to do this job. I'm acutely aware of how our environment impacts the things we're able to do, who we see ourselves as, and ultimately who we become. So as a city councilor, that's one of my passions, is to ensure that I'm helping create a community in which everyone can thrive, become who they're meant to be.
Thank you, Stacey. That was very helpful. Lots of people may not really understand the role of the city council within the Salem's government. Can you explain to us your vision of what the city council is supposed to do for all of us?
Yes, I like to explain to folks, at times I think it feels like the city council's main role is to kind of take care of the blueprint of the city. So they do deal a lot with things like land use, sidewalk maintenance, figuring out where different housing projects may go. And I think that in a broader context, what that means is our role is developing, again, a community in which people feel safe, in which people have the resources that they need, and which people thrive, ultimately, ensuring that our city has a sustainable future, our neighbors are able to get their basic needs met.
One of the challenges within any city organization is collaboration. How would you go about creating collaboration both within the different divisions of the city government, but also how that relates to the community as a whole?
Yes, collaboration is one of my passions. Within the city government, I think it will be really important to create relationships with people, to create connections. And I believe an important piece of collaboration is understanding how the other person communicates and understanding their viewpoint thoroughly. And so I always like to invite folks, especially when we're collaborating around an issue or a problem, to share their concerns. Let me know honestly and openly what they are struggling with, what their concerns are about, and so that I may do the same in return. And when it comes to my neighbors and the folks that I'm here to represent, I especially want to collaborate with them. I especially want to engage them. And one of my things that I'm doing now in the campaign, and that I plan to do again if I were to be elected, is to hold regular town halls, so to speak, with neighbors, opportunities for folks to come and connect with me, both in person or virtually, whatever feels most comfortable for them. And I would like to have these at various times, various days, to accommodate for different schedules. And I think another place where I need to collaborate and need to connect with neighbors is at the city council meeting itself, at city in those spaces. And to facilitate that, I believe that there's more that we can do to make that accessible to people, having language accessibility, providing childcare so that they can come and collaborate with us and act in partnership with us.
How do you see the role of the neighborhood associations in the collaborations that you're talking about?
I think they are key players in figuring out land use. What can the patch of grass over here, I live off of D Street, what can that be turned into? How could that park look when it's developed? And I think that our neighbors and our neighborhood associations especially have such extensive knowledge of the history of our neighborhoods that is also really valuable in sharing with us what their needs are, what historically the needs of that neighborhood has been, what their current needs are. I think it's really important to go to the people whose lives we're impacting with our decisions to gain that feedback.
You mentioned earlier that one of the issues is climate change. And one of the issues associated with climate change is transportation. The city of Salem is getting funds from the federal government to deal with issues such as mass transit. How do you see the transportation issues, or I should say the federal government using the funds to solve Salem's transportation issues?
Yeah, I think there's a few pieces to the transportation puzzle here. I think one piece is growing our network, expanding our network and expanding the hours in which it operates, the frequency of routes. And another key piece is also ensuring, when it comes to climate change, ensuring that we are moving away from gas vehicles, starting to take electric or to purchase electric buses. So I think those are two key areas where we can put that money, is into replacing our fleet with vehicles that will be more sustainable and kinder to our environment, and ensuring that people have greater access to transit as well, so that it's a viable option for them to use in their everyday lives. Another related project or area that I think really will help with transit and help reduce our reliance on cars and vehicles is bikes. So improving our bike network in town. There's an exciting plan that just was released actually by Councilor Stapleton. So really being committed to that network and providing bike share opportunities for folks as well, for folks that may not have a bike.
One of the other big issues that has been consistently in the news almost daily on the Statesman Journal is homelessness. And as you know, it's been difficult to even find places where they can do the micro shelters. Because people have a real discomfort with the idea of living next to a homeless person. What are your ideas about solving homelessness in the city?
One of the things I think is important for folks to know is those sites, a lot of them are the ones that I have been able to visit, they're operating as a wonderful little community. So I do think and understand where some hesitation comes from experiencing something that is unknown or unfamiliar to folks. And I would encourage folks to keep an open mind and try to be thoughtful about their neighbors. I believe one of the things we need to do is continue to expand those options, expand sheltering options, and look into unique opportunities such as maybe private and public partnerships in developing those options for folks. And I think a really key piece as well is, what are we doing to keep people housed? What are we doing to help people transition from shelters to housing and then staying in those homes? So ensuring that we're providing services throughout, that we recognize that once they're under a roof and have a home, that they still need skills to help them stay there. They still need support to help them adapt.
You mentioned earlier in the issue of transportation, how you would deal with that and its impact on climate change. What do you think about Salem's climate change plan and how it has been organized, and what are the aspects of it you think is really important to consider moving forward?
Yeah, the climate action plan is extensive. I am just so impressed at the work that was done to produce that and the numerous suggestions that were put together. I'm very much in support of this plan and moving it forward. I think a good place to start is with some of the highlighted key suggestions, things that will make some of the most impacts and maybe not be as intensive with funding or labor. I think some things that I'm really excited about when it comes to that plan and that I would like to see moved forward are, again, transit, helping public transportation here become really viable for people, helping move our fleets to electric. I think another thing that is very important to consider is how walkable is our neighborhood? How walkable are our neighborhoods? What resources do people have to travel to that maybe they wouldn't have to if it were down the road? Things like grocery stores, pharmacies. So looking at places where we can develop a little bit more densely, having mixed use spaces where folks can go downstairs to get a cup of coffee instead of feeling like they have to drive down, or if folks don't have to walk to Lancaster to go get their groceries, they're able to do it right at home.
So you suggesting that you would be interested in plans that they have in some cities? They call it kind of a neighborhood plan. So you have these areas that instead of having everything downtown or along a highway such as Commercial or Lancaster, you'd be in favor of having segments of the city evolve and develop in and around a neighborhood, so that you might have in Southeast Commercial an area that got developed so that it would have all those things you're talking about. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, the neighborhood hubs. Yes. Yes, I'm very much in favor of those.
What would you do about our city park system? Would you expand it? Would you, in fact, that gets to the real issue of the Meyer Farm. You know, if you were on the council today, how would you be thinking about that Meyer Farm in terms of the park system?
Yeah, for our park system, I do think there's room for expansion. I also would like to see some of our existing parks developed. In my ward, Ward 6, we have not as many parks as others, one of which was a really big space, and the city just applied for a grant to develop it. But I'd like to see some of those parks become more useful to folks. I think it's valuable to have more green spaces. I'm in favor of expanding our park system. But I also want people to feel like they can actually go there, access them, and have some things to do.
What would be some of the things to do that you think should be in a park?
I always think it's dependent on what the neighborhood wants, but I think they're having things like community gardens, partnering with the food share to have a community garden, skate parks, playgrounds, sports courts. I think all of those are great ideas, as well as having some walking paths, trying to have a variety of things that are accessible as well, no matter what your mobility needs are.
Can you tell us something about the infrastructure bond measures that are coming out on the ballot in November?
Yes, so those measures are going, or that those funds are going to be able to be used for I kind of think of it as like one-off purchases, things that don't need to be sustained over time, not programs, but looking at more like materials, resources. So I know that there's been a variety of things talked about. There's been some talk about and some encouragement around providing more vehicles or trucks, fire trucks to our fire service, looking at things like improving sidewalks, ensuring that we are really creating those safe routes to school so that people can get there safely, kids can walk to school and not have to be afraid of the traffic passing by. And then the other neighbors can use those paths too, to, again, walk to work, walk to services.
So if you were going to give us a list of what you think are the most important infrastructure projects, one being the most important, two being the second, what would that list include?
Yeah, that is tough to prioritize or tough to choose. I do think safe routes are very important, especially in my neck of the woods. We don't have as many developed or well-maintained sidewalks. Something I've gotten to experience as I've been walking around and knocking on doors. So I think safety within our routes, safety within our roads. And I do also believe that development of parks, development of green spaces, and an expansion of that would be really wonderful.
Thank you, Stacey, for answering our questions with such detail and thoughtfulness. Do you have some summarizing comments that you'd like to make?
Yes, I just like to share with folks that the primary reason I'm running is because of my community. I'm here today. I'm able to do this because of the amazing community that has just wrapped itself up around me and supported me in doing this. I am running for my community to transform Salem into not just a city where we're all living, but a place where we all thrive, where we're really invested in one another, invested in the well-being of one another, where we feel like we can give what we can when we can, where we're accountable to one another and recognize that sometimes the things we do have ripple effects to others, and it's important to acknowledge that. I have a passion for this community, and I have a passion to see increased representation in leadership as well. My ward is the most diverse ward in all of Salem, and I don't believe that we have had a Black, Indigenous, or person of color represent the ward as of yet. So I'm also very passionate about not just opening the door for myself, but for others. If I were to win, that would be a priority for me to support and mentor other folks, other neighbors that might be interested in doing something like this, or that just want to get involved in general. And finally, I also would like to share that I am open to collaboration, open to people reaching out. I want people to feel as if their local government is approachable and accessible. I've been really impressed at the way Chris Hoy has done that for my ward over the past few years, and especially getting in touch with our neighborhood associations. So I'm eager to continue that, and I'm eager to serve this community.
Thank you, Stacey. Very much for your time today and your thoughts. And also thanks to Capital Community Media for their extensive technology and producer skills used to create this program. And thank you to the League of Women Voters of Marion and Polk Counties for the design and preparation of the program, and AAUW, Salem City Club, and the help with the question development and providing moderators. And thanks to you, the public, for watching in order to become an informed voter. For more local, state, and national voter information on candidates and ballot measures, visit vote411.org. You have until April 6th to register to vote or to make changes to your registration. Ballots go out on April 27th, and according to a new law, you will be accepted if postmarked before or on May 17th. Elections matter. Remember to vote because your vote counts. Thank you.